and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Kennett, roll call, please.
President Pat McCarthy.
Present.
Dr. Carpenter.
Present.
Mr. Forbeck.
Present.
Ms. Loalbo. Mr. Mallon.
Present.
Ms. Provenza.
Present.
Mr. Suchovich.
Here.
Mr. Alexander's not here. I'm here. Mayor Cooper.
Here.
I just talked to Marcia about this list.
Okay. Okay, we'll hear registered comments from the public.
Okay, who's gonna go
Ms.
first?
Graham? It's okay. Can we shut that door?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We can do that.
No, you have to press the other part.
Trish, can you shut the door? Trish?
Can you shut
That's a
the
little
door?
tough to do. That's okay. We appreciate your effort. Thank you for coming. No, the bottom part.
So the bottom, underneath.
No.
Glad it's not just.
It's a little tough. It's a different model.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Elaine Kramer. I work with Pashik MTR. We're a landscape architecture and planning firm. And I thank you for the invitation to be here tonight to talk with you a little bit about the comprehensive planning process and to answer your questions about it. First, if it's okay with you, I'll just say a little bit about our firm, who we are, and my role in the firm as well. Pashik MTR is, as I said, landscape architecture and community planning. We design outdoor places and great places for people. And we're about a 12-person firm. We're based in the north side of Pittsburgh, and we do our work throughout western Pennsylvania, and we do a lot of community planning in Allegheny County especially, but throughout the region, up to Erie, Westmoreland, over even into eastern Pennsylvania at times. Jim Pashik, who is Pashik of Pashik MTR, is our founding partner, and he was co-creator of a type of community planning called the Implementable Comprehensive Plan. And he originated that with Denny Pucco, who is a planner, formerly worked with DCED, the State Department of Community and Economic Development. I have great affection for both Jim and Denny and a good working relationship across agencies with Denny, and a very affectionate one with Jim as well. The two of them had been planners in Pennsylvania for quite a long time and felt frustrated by both of them, Denny advising on plans and Jim writing them, and feeling that things weren't getting implemented. The classic, it sits on the shelf problem. And so they worked together and devised a different approach that is much more citizen-driven and much more community engagement-based. A few other differences that I'll go into more in a couple minutes, but Jim and Denny devised this together. It's now the model that is used and advised by the State Department of Community and Economic Development, Allegheny County Planning, and I personally have done 8 of them in the past 4 years. They are. And working on 3 of them right now. So we have a lot of experience doing this, following up on that particular model, and we think with positive results from the communities where we've done the work. I thought I'd touch on reasons to do a plan. This is something that Mike and I had spoken about on the phone. Why bother? Why do a community comprehensive plan? It's been a minute since you guys had one, maybe a few minutes, maybe since 1976. So an hour. But Having a comprehensive plan does serve as a catalyst for improving the community because it creates the opportunity to have a community conversation about how you want and the citizens want the community to change and grow in the coming decade or so. And it's important to update them supposedly every 10 years if that's possible in a community, and it isn't always, because things change. People change, residents, demographics change, people move in, people move out, economic conditions change, times change, priorities change, society changes, everything changes over the course of decades. So it really makes sense every 10 years or so when you can to kind of reset your goals and think again about how the community wants to change. Comprehensive plans also help elected officials to make decisions that align with community priorities. You guys have the really big and I think awesome, and I say affectionately awesome, responsibility of deciding how taxpayers' money should be spent. And that is an awe-inspiring and awesome responsibility. And when you can do that with informed with a comprehensive plan that you know is driven by citizens and what citizens want to have happen, it can guide your long-term decision-making, and a lot of communities find that valuable. And then this is very practical, but when communities have a comprehensive plan and then they seek a grant for something, if there's a grounding for that grant in the comprehensive plan, it's a real plus for acquiring a grant or standing in a grant application. If it's never mentioned in the plan, doesn't mean you won't get the grant, but it's probably less likely. So that's a very practical, tangible way. So I'd like to speak for a couple minutes about how you guys could approach the grant process if you want to hear about that and the planning process. But also, if you don't mind, I'd like to tell you a couple. I'm going to leave these handouts with you, and I'm not speaking like page 1, then page 2, page 3. These are things you can flip through and keep and look back at. But I want to talk to you a little bit about how our company does planning and why we think it's a good way.
Thank you.
We try, as I said, to root our plans very deeply in community input, and that's the first page does have a graphic that shows that. We typically, communities want us to ask citizens as many ways as possible what's important to them, and I know you guys have done visioning processes before. You've done as recently as what, 2016 or yeah, and I've read those, and they seem to be very consistent with what we see in other communities, your size, and they seem like they were done with great energy and effort and sincerity, and I see no reason to question the things that were already done. They make sense to me. We also tried to do same deep sort of visioning, and then out of hearing what citizens want to see happen in their community from all those different ways, we create a list of problems to solve, strengths to build on, group them into what we call key issues, and we pick maybe 4 or 5 key issues to tackle in the plan. Our plans don't end with 7 pages of grids with type this big telling you 400 things you should do, because we feel that communities don't have the capacity for that, most communities, and it makes no sense to tell you all the things you could do when many of them are just not likely because of financing, because of capacity, because of citizens or your population is small. So we do try to root it in community input, but also try to match the problems to solve with community capacity. And think big, break things into small pieces, but generally try to keep things very feasible and very in line and consistent with what you all and our steering committee and the planning commission feel is feasible for your community, because we don't want a plan with 1,000 things to check off that you're never going to get to because that's the one that sits on the shelf. So we try to identify the 2, 3, 4, 5 things that are most important to either strengths to build on or problems to solve. We do try to focus on issues, real issues, and by that we mean ones that are not only the ones that you as elected officials, your planning commission, and your professional staff members think are important, but also the ones that citizens raise up. We try to invest a lot and this is, we've done this more and more over time since Denny and Jim invented this model, is we try to invest more into building community capacity. And by that, I mean we spend more time helping our steering committee and anybody else who wants to learn about technical advice or programs that are available, or ways that the state or the county can be of assistance, because not everybody knows all those things. I always am learning about new ones. You know, it's so we try to invest in learning and growth because we think that builds capacity and the possibility of implementation over time. So we do also involve the steering committee in, it used to be, a steering committee would be there for 6 months and then leave when we finish the plan. But increasingly we're asking the steering committee to, should they be willing, not only to help with development of the plan, but to stay on and continue to serve, maybe not open-ended forever, but at least like in an informal capacity for at least a few years to keep their foot on the gas of the comp plan. Something tells me you guys are busy. You have, often day jobs, families, a lot of commitments, and this public service that you do. And it can be overwhelming to expect a handful of elected officials to always know what's the next thing that should be done on a plan. So we increasingly are asking our steering committees, who are made up of citizens, sometimes 1 or 2 elected officials, a planning commission member, to stay on with that intention of wanting to see the plan through. That's another effort to make things more implementable rather than sitting on the shelf. I guess you can tell that we try to focus a lot on the process, although coming up with a report is important, and we do that. Having a community process that builds engagement, builds commitment, builds citizen participation is something that really does tend to make a plan have more durability and feasibility in the community. So as you think about that, we hope you understand that we're still developing and changing our efforts all the time as we, go through one planning effort to the next planning effort, and we think what has worked well, what should we capture and try in the next community. One time we built a website for a community and it was a ton of work and it ended up not being worth it. I'm not going to do that again. A website about the comprehensive plan. I thought, oh, that was such a great idea, and it ended up being a lot of work, and I'm not going to do it again because it ended up like probably 10 people looked at it. So, we keep changing changing and learning from going through this, all the time, going through plans with communities all the time. Right now, I'm currently working on 4, so I think, 3. We're working right now on one with Hampton Township, one with Bell Acres, and one with Harrison, Brackenridge, and Tarentum. So I have 3, that are in different stages of completion right now. So that's how we do it. That's a little bit about our approach, and I'm happy to take questions about that or about other aspects of community comprehensive planning that you might want to know our perspective on.
Elaine, can you explain maybe the different levels of plans? I think you and I talked about how like we're a small community, and obviously it's best if we could do a multi-community plan. When we're reaching out with Oakmont, we're going to meet with them. Hopefully, we might be able. But if not, say if we cannot,
Yeah.
is there ways for a small community like us to be able to get grants, or is there a way that we can eventually get to the plan that we want with not causing us financial distress?
Right. A multi-municipal plan is probably your best option for getting a grant, either from DCED, the State Department, or from Allegheny County Economic Development. And I have, oh, here they are. I don't think I have 10 of these for all of you, but here's a couple of handouts about the State Municipal Assistance Program. It's called MAP.
Give it to Pat and Jerry.
Yeah, we'll get copies.
Okay, thank you.
You can also look it up on the DCED website. It is a grant program. Allegheny County also does grants. Their Allegheny County Economic Development Planning Division does issue grants, but both of those definitely give preference to multi-municipal efforts. The other way, and this has only happened with us in recent years once, was that Pine Township, a few years ago, I think it was like maybe 2016, we did theirs. They got funded by Allegheny County as a solo municipality for their comp plan, but they did something a little bit different, and it piqued the interest of Allegheny County. And what they suggested was they would simultaneously do a community comprehensive plan and a community or a comprehensive parks, recreation, and open space plan. So they wanted to undertake both at one time, and that intrigued Allegheny County enough that they funded them. And then they also obligated us as the consultant to write what they called a case study of, what went well, what didn't. Would we ever recommend doing that again? Deconstruct our efforts, warts and all. And so we did that. They got that funding. But if you want to try it as a solo, try getting a grant just on your own. I would encourage Verona to have come up with some very original idea like that. And even then, it's probably harder now than it was a few years ago. These are competitive grants. There are, it is harder to fund it on your own. Some comp plans, the one we're doing with Harrison Breckenridge and Tarentum is 50% funded by the communities proportionally per capita, and 50% funded by Allegheny County, and the total funding is $90,000. Hamptons, they're doing on their own. They either didn't seek or weren't able to acquire grant funding, and theirs is $80,000. We think that, depending on what the community wants, that's a lot of money. We recognize that, and especially for a small community. And we want communities to plan, but we also, can't donate our services. So we think there are ways that you could take on some of the responsibility for parts of the planning on your own. This is what Bell Acres did. They handled all of their public, their initial part, the visioning, the community outreach, the survey. I think they paid us maybe, $5,000 or less just as like sort of an advisor, but they did all the work to do the community input. And, we just looked over their questionnaire and said, let's change that wording, or, advise them in ways, but we weren't doing the work. So they took on that, 1/3 of the first third of the comprehensive plan, or quarter of the comprehensive plan, and did it on their own with just a little bit of advice and consulting help from us. Then they were worried about paying for all of the plan in 1 year. So what we suggested is that they break it into pay separate, break it out over 2 years, but the comp plan is actually over 3 years. So, I think and you guys could do this, start it in November, but we won't start billing you until January. And then over the course of that year, pay for part of it, and then save money for the last bit in the third year. So, you can spread it out, and we will work with you on that so that we get, my salary paid, and the work that our firm does, but it's reasonable, and more communities can find that more doable. If you guys were to take on some of it yourselves, the way Bell Acres did, I think you could bring down the cost to more like $50,000, and I know that's still a lot of money, but if you think about breaking it 1/4, half, 1/4 over 3 years, maybe that's something that could be feasible. So, that's our experience, and I hope that's what I had explained to you on the phone. Is that what you were hoping I would? Yeah, you wanted that. Okay, I just wanted to be sure I was explaining.
The multi-municipal grant is obviously the best if you can get that, and that's based on your
Neighbors.
well, yeah.
Neighbors.
Yes. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I think when did, I know I wrote this down. I think I looked it up. Oakmont did theirs in 2011.
2011, yes.
Yeah, so, if you were to get a grant and, work with them, get a grant, the timeline would probably be that it would be at least 10 years since their last one, so the timing could be right for them.
Right. They're just starting now.
They're just starting.
And so that's where we're going to meet with them. And see if
Yeah,
there's something we can
yeah.
get done with that. Yeah.
Well, they may find it in their interest too,
Right.
because everybody wants to get grant money, when you can. I think everybody tries to, respect citizens and taxpayers' money by, getting other people's taxpayer money through the county, so.
You're pooling your resources.
Yeah.
So.
And also, if you do a comprehensive plan with a neighboring community, it helps not only for the purposes of planning, but it also builds it's another way to build capacity for ongoing effort. I don't know if you've talked to Carrie Fox or anybody from Harrison, Brackenridge, and
That's how I got
and Tarentum, yeah. But, these are, so Harrison is like, 20,000 people, and Brackenridge is less than 1 square mile, and, 1,500 people, and, so there's a big difference in size, but they're still looking for ways to implement together. Like this year, we're still producing the plan, but they're creating a multi-municipal cleanup effort. And, so they're sharing people, they're sharing resources, they're working together, and if you start with small things like that, it builds trust, it builds community, and really sometimes our boundaries don't mean a lot to citizens. They might not even know which borough they live in, or, if they're on the edge of, between them, and, they say, well, my address is Pittsburgh, I live in Pittsburgh, so, we understand that, and so working across borders can help build community in general and community identity. I think you were going to ask me something, and I cut you off.
Oh, that's all right. You mentioned steering committees. And I know, I think Mike and Nancy and I were at a workshop where they talked about kind of just the general basics of comprehensive plans, but what's the main, does the steering committee usually guide the whole, or kind of run the planning process, or is it just the planning commission, or is it a combination? What's the steering committee made up? You touched on it briefly, I think, but can you explain that?
What's a steering committee? What do they do, and who is in it?
Yeah, like who, in your experience with the municipalities you work with, who has been on those steering committees typically, or how, who would we look to be involved in that process?
Yeah, different communities set them up different ways. we can provide like a job description based on what you want your comprehensive plan to be, so that it can help you identify people that you think would be good. Some communities say, each ward should have a representative. Are you divided into wards or districts?
There's 3 voting districts. but-
Voting districts, well, sometimes, but you guys aren't elected, you're elected at large all?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yes.
okay. Sometimes communities where that's a little different want, somebody from each of their elected areas, and that's a perfectly good way to do it. It gives geographic diversity. Some communities put one person from their council or commission, their elected officials, one person from the planning commission, and then all the rest would be citizen stakeholders, maybe somebody from the school board, somebody who's just like super active in recreation or trails, or the downtown business district, if you have a business improvement district, somebody, so just kind of people who represent different constituencies. I always suggest strongly that you try to balance it among genders and really think about age difference too, so that the steering committee represents new, young families and new people moving in, because, their needs might be and desires might be quite different than mine, as somebody, well into middle age. So that every kind of diversity and diversity of experience that you can think of, I think makes the end product richer. Also helps the community planning process gain access to constituencies, so we can hear from everybody about what they want and would like to see happen in the community, because sometimes, in some communities, people may look at me and say, you have nothing in common with me. So it helps if the steering committee reflects the diversity of your community in every sense of that word, so that people feel a personal relationship to the effort and feel comfortable with the effort and trust the effort.
Thanks.
Usually we advise maybe no more than 12 total people on the steering committee.
Have you ever seen, I know that it's best if you were doing with somebody that you shared boundaries with, but was there ever multi-communities that maybe were similar in makeup, but they were maybe across the river from each other or something like that? Have you ever heard anything like that?
We haven't done that,
Yeah.
but I think they would have to have some affinity for each other and some reason to share resources or if not share resources, share constituencies and goals. They would have to have some tie. I don't know if a bridge would be enough, but it could be. I thought of one other thing I wanted to say about steering committees.
Sorry.
No. It'll come back if it's important.
Any other?
No, I think she's covered pretty much everything for me.
On the handouts, I forget what I put in there. Just borrow one back for a sec. I just want to tell you what else is in here in case you want to look at it later. This two-sided handout, the 5 components of an implementable comprehensive plan. This shows how implementable is different than the traditional approach. In Pennsylvania's municipalities planning code, the MPC, that reflects the traditional approach, where you have a chapter on historic and natural features, a chapter on recreation, a chapter on transportation, one on land use, one on housing, etc. But we find that those may not be very important to members of your community, or they might be, but we like to boil it down, as we show here for the McCann list, what was important to them. On the back are some other, numbers 1 through 5 on this handout are ways that implementable plan is different. I spoke a little bit before about how we try to build capacity for implementation and in the community through our process, and that's here are like 3 or 4 examples of that. And then the back page is something you all might want to think about, because we think about this a lot. This is levels of community engagement. There are different ways that a community, the officialdom of a community can interact with constituents. And it's a continuum. On one end is inform, which is, we're the borough, we'll keep you up to date. And these are kinds of communications that align with that level of community engagement. You send out newsletters or email blasts or something like that. The other end is fully engaged community, where we want what you citizens want. And I'm not arguing for any of these, or making a case for any of them. But what I would suggest is that you all might think about where you feel your community is now on the continuum and where you want to be on the continuum, where you think your borough should be on the continuum of how the officialdom and citizenry interact with each other. And the planning process can be one tool for helping you move to where you want to be on it. It can be one way to help you interact and engage with citizens. So that I just wanted to mention what those 4 handouts are and why I put them in.
Anybody have any other questions?
Excellent.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for this opportunity.
Yes, thank you for coming. Appreciate it.
And you have my business card. Please don't hesitate to be in touch. I do strongly recommend that you ask Kay Pierce, who is the she's the Planning Division Director with Allegheny County Economic Development. She's retiring in April, so, but if you can get on her calendar soon and have her come to one of these meetings, and you could ask her advice for getting up and running with a comprehensive plan. She's a good resource, and she's traditionally been willing to do it, but gotta get in there soon. So,
Yeah, I didn't realize she was retiring.
yeah, I think April, I don't know, mid-April.
Okay,
Good for her.
yeah.
So she's been there,
We can
I think,
have cake for
35
her.
years or something. Once again, thank you very much for this opportunity.
Thank you for your presentation.
Don't hesitate to call me.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Angela?
Angela Penny, 521 Center Avenue. I'm here with
Darren Hulk.
And at the last meeting, we were discussing watering of the baskets, and there was some question on price and how much it could possibly go up to. And Ray brought up the question of maybe putting a cap on it. So what I gave you, please exclude, because since I made an error on the days, all that math is wrong. So I'm just going to read you off the new corrected amount. So from May 15th to October 15th, it's 153 total days. So I did 153 times the $45 a day, made it $68.85. So I took into consideration, and this is a very low number, 4 days of the month rain days, which will probably be more, but if it was 4 days a month rain days, you times that by 5 months, that's 20 days total. So if you took the 20 days, you times that by the 45, that's $900. So you take the $900 and you subtract it from the $68.85, which gives us $59.85. So I would probably ask for just a little bit more than that, not maybe like $6,200 or something like that. And that would be a cap. And
Angela, I'm sorry, you said how much, 50?
oh, yeah.
885?
It was $59.85.
$59.85.
After we subtracted 4 rain days a month. Now, if
Right.
there's more rain days, that number is going to go down a little bit, which I think there probably is going to be more rain days than that, but I just put in 4. So Darren is here to tell you that he is going to put a cap on that, and it's going to be 3 hours. 3 hours a day. So, and then he can explain a little bit more about how he's going to be watering them.
This is, I'm sorry,
Yeah, that's-
this is the one that we got tonight that she changed.
Right. Oh,
She
okay,
made an error in the.
Yeah, I put 183 days and it was only
This original
153.
one-
Yeah, it was a little
The
different.
original one was probably right.
Gotcha.
Right.
Original one was an approximation for
Gotcha.
150 days.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, so that one was more close to the original.
Right.
Gotcha.
This was the original right here, these two.
So we are backing down to once a day, but we're doing something different with the soil this year. So what we're going to use in there is going to help retain the water a lot better than what we had done previously, so they don't dry out. And that comes from the recommendation of the landscapers. It's like gel or something that goes into the
It's a
soil.
gel cap, it goes right into the moisture there.
Yeah.
It should hold for at least 4 to 5 hours prior to the day. So you figure if I water it around 4:30 in the morning, that should hold up until 8 o'clock at night. It'll keep it moist.
And he's working 7 days a week. He's doing Sundays. He's doing all the watering. That's everything in town.
Angela, one time you had said, and I don't have nothing, there's nothing written. Somebody said that he would be using his own truck. Somebody said he's going to be using the borough
He's
watering.
He's using his own truck with
Using the watering.
with a watering tank. He's using our watering tank.
His own, not the borough's water.
No, our watering tank like Tommy used, the same tank that he used last year.
Okay.
It will be on the back of his truck. But
Okay.
he's also asking if he could just take that tank home every night and put it in the garage and charge it up, and that way it can stay on the back of the truck, and he doesn't have to get anybody to open up the building for him in the morning. He doesn't have to worry about any of that. His water access is out there by the pavilion, and then behind the cannon, which I just found out from Dave, there's water there also. So he
Yeah, I
can
just was
access water.
confused on his truck and the
Yeah.
watering thing. There wasn't nothing really.
Yeah. No, we still need to
Because we
use
just
our
touched
water.
base real quick last month on this.
Yeah, right. We still need to use our watering cart, even though he's not really happy with it because it's very small and he's gonna have to fill up a lot, but it's sufficient for now. Yeah,
Does that have a pump on it?
yeah.
Electric pump.
It gets charged
You ever
every
see
night.
them paint totes that they come out with? They're like a 250 gallon paint tote. They're probably this tall, and probably like 4 foot by 4 foot. I see them work when they bring our paint in, and I don't know.
Yeah.
We have them.
You know what I mean? That
We
might
have
be
them
something you
at
can put on a truck that,
Yeah.
if you could get a pump to,
They're gravity fed, the
Well-
nozzles at the bottom.
yeah, but if they have a pump that
Right.
the hose can go down in,
It's transferable. You can take that pump and put it on anything.
well, yeah. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't know if there was something that if we've seen that around or something we could look into.
That would be great. I mean, I could research it too. I mean, that
I'm
that
sure it
pump,
will.
that watering cart is showing its age now. We've had some issues with it last year, and I don't know how well it's even gonna work this year because it was clogging. So I don't know if they fixed it or not, or fixed the nozzle or what it was, but it's probably getting close to the time where we should probably step up our game a little bit.
We have 3 of them, we got them from Craigslist, and they were
Oh.
like $40 a piece.
Oh, what, really? Wow. Well,
If you could get one of them big tanks somewhere, I'm sure them paint companies have them everywhere.
yeah, that cuts down on time too, because if you're constantly filling up that cart,
You can get a pump
That's-
pretty cheap anywhere.
that's,
can be
yeah,
down there.
you can go to Grangers or
Grangers,
whatever,
yeah.
yeah. So just putting it out there, is an option.
So my question is, Darren, how are you gonna get that pump up onto the bed of your truck if it's full of water?
Well, you empty it and make sure it's empty. It's not that heavy. Pick it right up, put it right on there.
But
Strap it down.
how are you gonna fill it if it's empty?
Garden hose.
Garden hose.
That's how we fill ours,
Yeah.
garden hose.
Put the empty one on the truck filled up.
Just fill it up.
Just
Yeah.
stays on the truck.
Well, the hoses that we have available to us, the one is inside the building, the other one's over here by the pavilion. It's not that long.
I'm sure Garen has a hose.
I can grab one of mine from my house. No big.
Okay. And then I don't know anything about the one behind the Doughboy. I didn't know there was one there.
Yeah, Dave told me about
I
that.
didn't realize there was one behind the
Yeah, it's
Doughboy.
exciting.
Do we know
It's
that
actually
it
by the
works?
cannon.
Do we know that it works, though?
It's shut off, I mean,
Well, I mean,
it should work, it's only a valve. with a connection for a hose.
We have a thing out here that's been broken for 2 years that used to feed.
Well, this ain't like that, it's just right in the ground from the water company. We just open the box up and go right into with the
Oh, good.
hose.
Okay, great.
Turn the valve on.
We getting that fixed this year?
Hopefully.
Okay.
It'd be helpful if that got fixed.
Yeah, because then, you go behind the gazebo and you got a water source too, so, I mean, well, you can't use it now because there's a broken pipe.
Broken pipe,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's been broken for a year, so.
So are you seriously planning on watering the plants at 4:30 in the morning?
Yeah. That's usually when my day starts.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah, it's early.
Because that way too, I avoid the traffic.
There's no traffic, so that's good.
4:30 in the morning, I have to worry about
Shouldn't
it.
have too much problems.
So this money is purely for watering. If something happens to the pump, the borough will
The borough owns it.
buy a new pump. Okay.
So this bid you gave tonight, we can get rid of that.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, just change it.
So you're looking at 153 days, 45 a day at 68.85.
Right.
You're guesstimating 4 rain days a month, times 5 months, 20 rain days.
That's
At
9.
45, that's $900.
Right.
You're estimating $59.85.
Right.
And you're asking us to max out at $6,200.
Right. That's it.
And I don't have, does anybody object to him taking the pump?
I don't object to that.
No,
I don't either.
that's fine.
I think it makes it a lot easier.
Well, it does.
So we could wait and think about it more, or I'd be willing to make a motion right now if you guys feel like you're okay with voting on it. All right,
Are we doing this as an employee or as a contractor?
What's the best way? What do we?
Contractor.
Contractor.
He's using his own truck, I think he should be a contractor.
Okay, what does that do for us, Jerry? I'm sorry.
Nothing, you're not gonna be on payroll. We'll pay you, basically, we'll come up with a way that every so many days, we'll cut you a check for that number of days. $45 a day for that number of days. That way, he's a contractor, there's no payroll, there's no payroll expenses.
There's no
payroll
taxes, there's no 1099 or nothing?
There's no workers' comp, well, there'll be a 1099.
1099.
Yeah.
All right.
so I'll make a motion that we approve $6,200 for watering of the baskets by Darren Hoke, who's going to be a contractor for the borough.
I'll second that.
Okay, first by Dr. Carpenter, second by Mrs. Provenza. Are there any questions?
Question. Nancy, you made a motion to give them 6,200. Are you going to make that motion as a maximum of 6,200?
If everyone's okay.
Yeah, I put a cap on it.
Yeah.
It would be
Yes.
cap of 62.
I think the motion should be that it's the proposal that's been presented to at a maximum of 6,200 for the year.
Because there might be more to, you might be a little less,
It's probably gonna be less. 4 days.
$45 a day.
Yeah.
You know it's gonna be less.
So,
$45 a day, starting May 15th, finishing October 15th, maximum of $6,200 for the year.
what Jerry said.
So moved.
Okay. Are there any more questions?
no.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passed.
Take nays or no?
What's
I
that?
said, do you need to take nays or?
Are there any nays? Then the motion passed.
Probably should.
Yeah, I
All
should
in favor,
ask.
say aye, and yeah.
Right.
Probably should.
Okay. All right. Next, everybody has a copy of the proposal by Carrie Louis Del Rosso.
Yeah, I was under the impression she was going to be here tonight. Do we know why she's not here?
No, I have no idea, I haven't talked to her at all.
Maybe she forgot?
I have a little bit of a question, and I'm not, I would think she would have been here tonight for the earlier ceremony for Officer Bill, as our public relations person. Wouldn't you think she should have been here? I mean, I don't know whose responsibility it would be to have called her, or should she know that, you know? It was mentioned in our meetings. You know, just a comment.
Well, do you want to table this till she comes to the next meeting?
Well, I guess my question is, what are we doing right now? Is she clocking hours with the borough with no contract?
She hasn't lately. She hasn't really done anything.
I don't know what that means lately.
Well, the last time I sent her, last time she had an invoice, but that was some time ago. I don't have her invoices in front of me, so I can't tell you when exactly that was, but it's been
Well,
months.
was she involved with the police officer situation?
No, we took care of that in-house. It was,
Oh, okay.
we didn't want that.
Oh, all right.
I mean, her old contract had that minimum of 10 hours per month, right? Was that only, so I mean, was that still carrying over into this year?
Looks like she's taking
I
that
think
out.
she crossed it off.
That was removed.
I know, but what I'm saying, if she's still working now under the old contract, are we paying her 10 hours for, okay,
Only if she does something.
Yeah.
Okay.
right, okay.
Well, it does say minimum in the old contract.
Correct.
So we have not paid her that.
So this would fall under professional services, right? So what's the minimum for needing 3?
I think it's 10,000 for the year, but I'd have to check with Craig. I'm not sure off the top of my head. For the bid? To mean the bid?
Need a bid, yeah.
We have to check with Craig.
I think it's 10,000.
So would this, so this would this be on the fence of that, or is this, I didn't do the math on,
Last year, we paid under 10,000 for her. It was 9,000 something or other, but yeah.
did we competitively, or I guess it's not really bid, but request for proposals, when she was the first year of her contract, did we get multiple proposals at all, or did we seek?
No.
No?
So you're right, if you took 20 hours times 50 times 12, you're, I think, 12,000, something like that.
That's the max?
That's a
Yeah,
max.
max
That's
is 20.
max.
Right.
Yeah,
and
she's
that's-
never been there.
Right.
He's never even come close to that.
Well, it's hard to figure this out without having Carrie here.
Well,
Table it till she,
we'll table it till the next council meeting and have her, we'll ask her to be present.
the next workshop.
Next workshop, which will be March
31st.
31st.
Unless, I mean, the only thing I was thinking, if we want to have an elemental discussion of, is these services, are these services necessary for us? Or does it have to be under this type of agreement? Or?
I don't feel like they're totally necessary, in my personal opinion. I mean, I know it's pretty minimal, but I feel like for the things listed and the recent issue we had with the police officer, I think we handled that in-house fairly well. I don't see it as a critical service that we need.
Since we're open for discussion, I've thought about this quite a bit, whether it's a good thing or a not so necessary thing. And I have a couple bullet points I'll put out. Number one, we have a newsletter that goes to every resident in our borough, even up into parts of Penn Hills. So everybody knows pretty much what's going on in that newsletter. Number two, we have a new billboard here, which goes 24/7, and people know what's going on the billboard. Number three, I think Curtis Brown does a very good job with the alerts that he's putting out. That number keeps growing, which is good. Number four, we have a reporter that comes to every meeting, Mr. Michael DiVittorio. He stays the entire meeting, gets a report of everything that goes on at the meeting, and then he goes back to the Valley News Dispatch, puts it in that newspaper, which is a popular newspaper in our area, and that tells everything that's going on here. Number 5, Don Wharf doesn't miss one meeting. He records the entire meeting, and even if people cannot be here for that meeting, they still know what went on at the meeting and what's going on in town. And Joey, I thank you for being here tonight. Appreciate you. Thank you. So this is not personal toward Carrie, but I just gave this some thought, and I thought, well, why do we need her, or why don't we need her? I've just put out 5 things that are being done now. Do we want to spend taxpayer money, or don't we?
I think, can I speak?
Go right ahead.
I agree with a couple things you said, Sylvia. The newsletter, yes. Still, city billboards, we're kind of limited as to what we can put on there. You're right, there's a billboard that we're allowed to use. Curtis Brown does put text out. Mikey D's not at every meeting, Mikey D. Vittorio. I haven't seen him in a meeting until there was a little bit of an issue.
He usually,
And he gets the info, and he puts it in the paper. And, Dawn Wharf does it every meeting, you're right. But I've seen, and I don't care either way, I'm just saying, I've seen Carrie at a lot of the functions. She was at the bike derbies. She was there when we landed the helicopter. She was there when they had the, what'd you say about the thing in the yard?
Community Day.
Community Day. I mean, she's been at stuff like that, and I'm not saying Dawn's not there, but he's not recording that sort of thing. And I don't know if Curtis Brown's at that stuff, recording that stuff. Curtis is more so putting out what happened today. Hey, there's something going on, there's, whatever, there's a street blocked, or there's a tree down, or, there's an accident. I agree with what you're saying, all these are good points. But I think Carrie does do a lot of good advertising. And I think, personally, I think we table it until we can have Carrie here to discuss it. I think it's a good thing. Do we discuss the hours that she gets? And I know there was a question from Nancy as to, do we get the reports or not? Are we getting reports or not? I know that's a question. So I just think that these are questions that we need to have Carrie standing there and answering for us, instead of just speculating what she's going to do and what she's not going to do. That's my 2 cents worth. Thank you.
I think it's fair that she would be here to converse with us. I mean, we do have some questions, concerns, and issues, and it'd be good to have her side of the story. Thanks.
I agree.
All right, then we'll table her contract until March.
No,
I don't think we need a motion on it. We'll just table it till March 31st and have Carrie here for that. Okay, comments from the public. Council will hear comments on the agenda items at this time. Please approach the podium and clearly state your name and address, and limit your comments to 3 minutes.
Hi, Joey Warren from Vogels Lane. I appreciate the conversation. I just want to mention one more thing from last month. If you guys could please move forward using company names, refer to contract details versus first names. Like for tonight, it says Carrie presents contract. I think it's just helpful for a couple reasons, that if you mention ABC Company with contract between 2020 and 22, secured with the first and last name of a person, will just be helpful, especially when we memorialize things with the video or the notes moving forward. I don't know if it was a shoo-in or not, but if there was the police department tonight that was doing something that was, good photo op or a news story, or in recent events, I'm not sure what her contract was, but I just would think that someone would be here. So as a resident, if we're paying, what was the max for last year for the contract? Should it have been the max? What was the math?
I don't know the number.
think-
off the top
I
of my
think
head.
12,000, but it wasn't that.
So if we have in a budget for $12,000 where something could go that far, I think there was a lot of discussion about watering plants this morning, that I think there should be just as much conversation about a contract for someone that represents the entire community. So I just want to share that, and I am hearing that, so to be fair, you guys are discussing that, so I appreciate the dialogue. That was the second one. Also, with that cost, I just wanted to know, these are more questions for you guys, I guess, for next month, so I don't know if I need a response, I just want to mention these. Is there any overlap in the hiring of a contractor with efforts already being made by the borough manager, the communications chair or the committee, or community groups or efforts like the 150th anniversary like you're heading? So I don't know if we would vest in something like a contract for someone to do outward messaging for our community if it's already being overlapped with things that you're already doing or have handled, or you're heading up, or you're chairing and co-chairing, or whoever's working on that project. In addition to the other resources we have. So just a question I think you should ask if it's going to be something you're going to budget out for the $12,000. And also in answering that question, I just didn't know, what has all of council agreed upon as the singular message that you have identified for even hiring a contractor? What's the purpose? I know she has a contract, but what is that singular message from our community that she's tasked with that we are not sure, off the top of your heads, what we're paying, or who she's representing, or when she steps in, or if she's here for the cake party, or if she's here for the other events? I understand over the years she has done pockets of work and she's represented the community. I just didn't know what that singular message is that's within that contract. I imagine it's within the paperwork you've read, I just haven't read it, so it's just more of a question. So that was the one remark. Do I still have a minute left? Am I good?
You're all right.
From the last workshop meeting discussion, what was the outcome of discussions from within council on the recommendation of a text alert system upgrade from simply text to text and voice messaging for alerting all residents of the fire and flood, storms and trees downs, and the community events, rather than only by cell phone? So I think this was touched on a little bit with Curtis Brown. I'm not sure his company, but you guys mentioned Curtis again. If there's a budget for $12,000 for the person who's doing the media piece that might go out for bid, might be the current person she's not within contract now, or she is? Is the contract gone?
It's expired.
Got it. I didn't know if maybe Curtis Brown's services could be expanded, so maybe that's something he could invest to make sure that we're not just giving text alerts to people that sign up for text, but maybe a voice messaging system. Because if you can have that enhancement, I think you're going to reach more of our community. So I'm not sure what the demographic looks like, but I think there are a number of people who don't use cell phone or don't use text messaging, but they would pick up a phone call or listen to a voicemail system that would just automatically put out a voice message from you or the mayor or whoever it would be that would lead a message that says, boil alert, we have a sinkhole, or tree down on this road, or level 3 snow. Whatever those alerts are that you need to know about immediately, I just think maybe worth investigating, and I just was curious what the discussion was after last month's workshop meeting and the last council meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay. Jerry?
Well, I was gonna bring up Carrie's contract, but that's done. The meeting minutes were distributed to everybody for last month's meeting. They would need a motion to approve.
Make that motion.
A motion on the floor for the approve the meetings by Mr. Suchowitz, second by Mr. Matlin. Are there any questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Are there any noes? Motion passed.
That's all I have.
Mayor Recupero.
A few things real quick. Parking over by the post office, we need to put those lines like we have on the rest of the boulevard. The problem is over there, everybody thinks it's 2 lanes. And I was in the post office the other day, and some of the people there were saying that they pull over to park and get out of the car, and next thing you know, there's people blasting their horn because you're blocking the road to go around the one that's making the left.
Yeah.
And some of them suggested if we do like we did on the main drag, naturally we would have to wait till the warm weather comes because they're put down with heat.
Right.
Parking spots, and since Enterprise is there, there's 1 or 2 more spots there because they blocked off their entrance coming and going from the boulevard. So that's something we need to look into come springtime.
Can I just add to that, Dave?
Yeah.
Well, one thing, and I still am wondering if we can do this, and that is make some distance between the light going back yellow, so people don't park there at all. And the other thing is with these T markers for the parking places like we have on the boulevard, I think that's a great idea. And I think someone in the last 2 or 3 months has mentioned also putting them on center between ARB and East Railroad and on East Railroad for parking. Especially since East Railroad is getting a lot more business with the coffee shop and Inner Groove being there, you know, just because you need to maximize the number of parking places that you have around that area at this point.
I mean, that's a good idea, but that would be up to the board to...
Yeah, because you made me think of it when you talked about the parking tees, yeah.
Right.
But I don't know, I mentioned it, I remember it's been a while because I was sitting over there and Matt sat next to me, that if we could make some portion of that yellow so people can get around. I mean, they're not always going to be able to get around because people are parking in a legal spot and the line going left is longer, then you just have to wait, but for the most part.
Matt was looking into something about that.
Extending the line.
We talked about it one time, I remember putting a line right down the middle.
Yeah, he was looking into that.
I think you got, whatever we do there, we gotta watch what the
Because
state.
well, that's what he was looking into, because it's a state.
He said that the state could bump the oncoming traffic coming into Verona over more. There's enough room and make a change. I don't know why they didn't make a changing lane. They could have designed it, I'm sure.
He said, well, if I remember correctly, it was like 2 feet short, the road width of doing
make it
that,
turn.
Yes, that's what I recall. also.
under their guidelines. But he was gonna see.
Yeah, I think Pat's right. I don't think that you would, they have, PennDOT, I think, has certain standards for the.
And he was looking into,
It doesn't have a lot to do with the buses, because buses turn on Wildwood, right?
yes.
Yes, they do.
That's where the stop bar is when you're going south on ARB. That placement is for buses and other
Yeah.
trucks and things to be able to make that turn, but as far as putting a specific turning lane and having a white line between the curb lane and the left turn lane, I think Matt, I remember him saying that it's tight. I mean,
Yeah.
And if you're turning a bus there, you need a lot of space there. I don't think there's enough room to have a turning lane.
But I'm talking about painting the sidewalk curb yellow to
Yeah.
not allow for.
I understand that, but
okay.
a lot of that has to do with PennDOT because they control that road.
I understand. I'm just saying, can we, I don't know what the process is.
Yeah, well, he was looking into it.
Well,
We'll want to remind them, that's all.
Yeah,
I think we need to remind them.
But PennDOT, look at how long it took to get the light.
See, the problem is Verona has very wide sidewalks. They're probably 7, 8 foot wide.
They're like
And-
double.
Yeah, and it's kind of useless.
Especially on that end.
Back in the 70s, Verona got revitalized through the county, and nobody thought of it back then, especially this board, they're all gone now. And they should have moved the telephone poles back some to make the sidewalk shorter and the road wider. Because it is a tight fit going through the main drag, with a fire truck, I know with our trucks, when 2 big trucks come, that's tight with cars on each side. The sidewalks are so wide, but that's, you can't do nothing about that now anyways.
Nope.
But,
Get a new revitalization loan.
OVR, we talked about that, and I was gonna see if they could bring somebody in tonight. They couldn't. I spoke to, her name is Dina McGinnon, and I had given Jerry the phone number. She is in charge of the supervisors, and she also is aware of the problems that we've had in the past. She is, and like I said, Jerry, you could call her and talk to her if this board's interested in still getting them to come over. They revamped their whole system. They retrained their supervisors that supervise the kids of 4. So that doesn't happen again. It has happened in the past where they just didn't pay attention to the kids.
Right.
Well, wasn't Jessica McDade's a new?
She has something to do with it, but she's like not in charge of that. And
I remember that.
Yeah, this Dina McGinning she's the main person to go to if there's any problems, if the board decides to get them to, come back. And I guess we'll have to move on that soon, because I guess they start, what, spring, or
Yeah.
May or June?
Well, close to when school's out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so, I mean,
Well, I wonder, and what people's ideas are about what someone, or what the OBR kids would actually do here in town. Do they have certain things that they only want to do? I mean, or is it anything we ask them to do?
It was anything we asked them to do, but they're not allowed to use any heavy equipment.
Or power tools.
Any power tools.
They're limited. AJ's got to watch them.
Yeah, well, the
Or
idea
you.
is the supervisor is supposed to watch them.
Right. Okay, yeah,
We're
yeah,
supposed to be kind of hands
I bet
off, but that's been the problem in the past, is that the supervisors don't show up for work, or they don't do it.
and they are well aware of that problem.
But if it does happen, then I would think you as the borough manager would need to be in contact with their supervisor as to, okay, this week we want this street done, this street, whatever, trimmed, cleaned, whatever.
Yep.
Yeah, okay.
I know, Janet, you had asked for or some, I think it was you, a new billboard up at Cribbs Fields, because I did see that when it was all crumbled on the inside.
It was like from when it was damaged.
Right.
And it's just falling apart. Nothing will stick in it. And the letters that we do have, they are so fragile, they crumble, break very easily.
Is the shell of that still good, Janet?
Yeah, just gave Mike the key tonight. He's going to measure it. We were looking at maybe getting like a magnetic board.
Like a new insert on
Yes,
that?
yeah.
Keep what's there?
Yeah, you could, it's made of, it's plastic wood, so it's still in good shape.
Oh, yeah, no, I'm not
Yeah.
saying get rid of that.
Right, but just get an insert that, whatever format of letters that we need for that. So I'm just gonna measure it.
If we could
What's here.
do something like that to hold us off, but Matt's trying to, with the pavilion concession stand project, we're trying to figure out a way to build a digital billboard or a digital display into that funding so that we can put a digital display there instead of, that'll just rotate messages and things like that, so.
I'm wondering if we're gonna do that for up there, can we get the one that Luke and Kathy and sometimes myself change this one down here, make that digital too?
We're gonna have to try, but we're working on a grant that's given to us from Cribbs, so we're limited as far as that goes, but depending on the cost, if we decide we want to spend the money to buy a second one.
Yeah, that would be good. Thank you.
And as far as part-timers go, there has been some applications brought in. Haven't got any back yet, and I would like to go into a very quick exec on police matters on that subject.
Okay, we don't have to come back for anything?
No.
Okay.
No, that's all I have.
Okay, thanks. I don't have anything at this time. Dave?
Okay, the first item, the garbage contract with County Hauling. Last week, there's another round of missed pickups. I think everyone on council and Jerry saw, the mayor saw my email. Recycling was missed for a lot of people. It sounds like they corrected it for some, not all. That's just the start of some of the issues I'm seeing. I know that Craig's working on a letter to them. I was gonna ask him if he was here, what the status is on that, but, Jerry, I don't know if we have things documented that they've missed in the contract repeatedly or over the last 8 months. I think we need to do whatever we can to hold them accountable, if it means, going to their bonding company, whatever. People are upset, and I think we need to step up and make sure we're doing all that we can to hold them accountable.
I'm sure some people got phone calls on it. I got at least 3 of them that their garbage in the recycling wasn't picked up. And Peter had given me a name of the supervisor on the truck, and his name was Dalton. And I left him a message, and he never did call me back, so I called Peter up. And he said there was a family, this is what he said, they were on the truck, one of the drivers had to leave, and that's why it wasn't picked up, that they would be in, tomorrow, which was Friday. And then that morning, I got a phone call from Christina from County Holland, and she's the new go-to person, and that's all she does is the complaints. And I gave the number to Jerry. I had told her to call Jerry when I talked to her, she's the new go-to person, and I had actually asked her to come to the meeting tonight. She couldn't make it tonight, and I told her about the workshop next month, and she said that she would be here, but Jerry, you could get in touch with her and talk to her and tell her our complaints that we've had from the citizens.
Yeah, I kind of feel like at this point, we need to get that letter to them. I think that the only thing that we're gonna be able to do that's gonna have teeth is a letter from the solicitor that says that this is the last of it.
Yeah.
I would think this long, they'd know the streets and everything.
And if there's anything, there's something in the contract that they're fined or penalized for not doing certain things too, right? So I mean, that could be
Imposed.
imposed, yes.
I mean, so I guess,
And the other, just before, is just, if there's a situation where there's, say, somebody misses a truck, they should be proactive in telling us and coming back to us and say, and that, hey, this is gonna happen, we're gonna miss recycling.
They should have called Jerry and said,
I
hey,
did tell
we
him
had a
that.
family
And then he
emergency.
could put out a text message or whatever, yeah.
I did tell them that they should have been in touch with the
Yeah.
borough manager. They have his number, that the truck had to leave due to a family emergency. Last month, for last meeting, Mr. Davis was here, and he says that they don't take all of his garbage out of his can. I know that for a fact because I complained 3 times. I have a dog, I clean the yard, put it in a plastic bag like you're supposed to, put it in a garbage can. Then the day of the garbage, you put your plastic bag in the garbage can. Well, they just pick the garbage, the plastic bag out, throw it in the truck, and 3 times, and I called Peter on it because it just really irritated me because everything else was left in the bottom. Pick the can up and empty it. They
Exactly.
just, one bag, that's all they see, and they throw it in the truck. And I told Christina also.
well, so this Christina, is she supposed to be a contact for the public to call? or
She's
just
contact for
For the borough?
Yeah, the borough contacts her with complaints. She will handle all complaints, and she does want to come to the meeting.
Okay. Because, like, as far as like someone gets sick or they have to scramble and can't finish a route, I mean,
We should have been notified.
do we have on file their implementation plan or any contingency plan for that sort of thing for them?
I think they're a new company, they probably don't have one set in place, you know what I mean?
But our contract calls for that, for them to have provided that. So if they haven't provided that, I think part of maybe in Craig's letter, we outline all the things that they're deficient on.
I'm sure there's a lot of things in that contract we could get out of.
I gave you the laundry list. I mean,
Right.
are they submitting monthly reports?
Nope.
No.
Maybe Dave, the refuse committee and Jerry and Connie Halling can set a meeting up and sit down and go over these things and say, hey, listen, we've been hit with you for 8 months.
Yeah.
I'll be honest with you, personally, I don't care if they wear a vest or not. I don't care. If the garbage is picked up, I mean, they should wear shirts. But if the garbage is picked up and they're doing what they have to do, okay. But if they're not picking it up and missing it, it's been 8 months, 9 months now, whatever it is, we need to call them in and have a meeting with, maybe not just Peter, maybe this new lady.
She's the one that will handle it.
Yeah, I mean, Peter seems like he has everything on his plate.
Yeah.
And go with this new guy, bring him in and say, hey, here's some of our problems, here's some of our complaints. And
Well, here's my idea is get the letter from Craig and get it out.
Right.
And then have her come and explain
Yeah.
what she's gonna do about those problems.
You just need
I agree.
to call
I think
Craig and say, we want that out by Friday, so they have it Monday morning.
Yeah, so that we can get, that way, here's your opportunity to explain to council, so that we're all informed as to how to handle this situation further.
Yeah, I agree with Pat. I mean, I think Ray, you have a good idea about having the meeting, but I think having the letter, documenting it, putting them on notice.
Let me ask the letter, you say the letter, I don't remember us talking about a
Yeah,
letter.
Craig's writing a letter, basically outlining all the problems that we're having.
Okay.
Using some of the information in your email. I did have a conversation with him after this recycling fiasco, and he's including that. And,
Okay.
and
I wasn't sure, thank
It was
you.
gonna be like a final reprimand.
I
think it
did
was the
text
last
Jerry
question.
one Sunday night, about 5:30 at night, Sunday night, I think it was.
They were in town.
And they were in town.
Yeah, I think the letter, I think it was the last workshop meeting,
Okay.
2 meetings ago, we talked about, I think Jerry suggested to Craig to do it. And,
That's a good idea,
makes
get
sense.
that letter out. and
I mean, I agree, Ray, that there's some things on my list that are maybe a little bit nitpicky, but I mean, the vests, I mean, if they're coming at 6, 7 o'clock a.m. and it's dark, and you have someone that's getting ready to go to work, and there's someone rooting around in their backyard,
The only reason I say
They
that,
don't know that
Dave,
it's a garbage
right, I get what
collector.
you're saying. The only reason I say that, and I'm looking back into my job, my company has policies as to us wearing vests and hard hats. I don't know if we as the borough have the right to tell them to wear vests, hard hats, or whatever. I'm sure their own company, but if it's in the contract.
contract.
I didn't go through the contract, piece by piece.
The bottom line, I think there's enough deficiencies within the contract that even without being nitpicky,
There's some cleaning up they need to do.
yeah, they've,
This is their chance to bite at the apple if you don't.
I think going through the neighborhoods, you can follow a trail of garbage because they put the can in and shake it and some of the garbage falls out. And then the next one, they do the same thing and some of the
I
garbage
don't use
falls
the can, I
out.
personally just put bags out.
Yeah, but for whatever reason.
Yeah, right.
And then for the next week, there's a trail of garbage that gets
Or you
rained
gotta
on
pick it
or
up,
snowed
right.
on or whatever. But it's just one of my observations about what happens
Yeah.
also.
And the only other thing, and I don't know, I haven't substantiated this, so I can't confirm that it's true, but people in Oakmont have been reporting that they're taking recycling and garbage and putting it in the same truck at the same time, which
That's a
would be a
major-
huge violation
Yeah.
of the
I've heard that's
contract.
going on.
It would be a huge violation of state law too.
Well, yeah, so, I mean, I personally, I told you guys, I put up a trail camera that I had in my backyard just to try to catch that. Of course, if they don't pick up recycling the same day, like last week, then
Right.
I don't know, but it's just something for people to keep an eye out for.
And if you see something happen like that, try to get a pic of it or
Yeah.
get a video of it so we
Yeah.
can prove it to them and say, hey,
So I just think we need to keep on them and, have the letter and have the meeting and not let it go on
I
too much
agree.
longer, so.
Yep.
The other thing, this is just an update on the landscaping contract, or I think Jerry talked about putting a bid together for that.
yeah.
What do you think our timeline would be for that?
I need some guidance on what exactly you want them to do, what
Okay.
the proposal.
I could send you
Yeah, what all
a
we
little
want.
scope,
Yeah.
or I even came up with a list of possible contractors in the area that
Yeah.
we could put it out to. So I'll send you something on that.
Okay, cool.
We do need to do that ASAP because all these people are, filling their bids already.
Yeah.
The terminology is.
The next item I had on the watering, but I didn't realize that Angela was on the agenda, so that's covered. The last thing, this was something I started talking to Matt and emailing with Matt and Jerry on since the last meeting. I want to start a road condition assessment survey where basically, I've talked to Matt, I think Matt and Jerry had talked about it in the past, and other communities do it. Basically, taking an inventory of all our streets and, you can rate them by certain criteria. Matt and I are gonna kind of work out what we want to do. That'd be, the traffic volume, maybe the width, the condition, the type of pavement, whether it's asphalt, concrete, brick. And then you rank everything, and then you tally that all up, and you have a weighted ranking of the roads that are in worst condition to best condition. And it would help us prioritize, we put this in a spreadsheet or table, and I'd hope to update it, maybe annually in the spring after pothole season's over. And it would help guide us for years to come on what streets need to be paved, any improvements, what streets need to have the most potholes. That way, if someone from the public comes up and says, hey, I need my street paved, we can look at the list and say, hey, yours isn't the highest priority because it's not in the worst condition and it's not, the heaviest volume, but it's fifth on the list. So, when the funding comes available, we'll be able to get to it. And I think it'll help us prioritize with, what little money we have for paving each year, and it'll help, members of the public know what, how we're choosing which streets we look to do that. So I know Matt's, you have Matt doing a lot of things, and obviously he's billable. I've had experience doing similar condition assessments for facilities, and I did one for the rec board a couple of years ago. We got started. So I told Matt, I'll take a first pass at this, put it together, maybe let him, take a glance at it and give me his thoughts on it. But I'm going to start on that. It's going to be probably a several-month process, but I just wanted to let everyone know.
Okay.
And I'm open to input from anyone on council, or especially the others on the Public Works Committee. If I'll send it out, and if you have feedback on how we do it, or let me know.
So you series like maybe a series of ranking or numbers, like the condition, traffic, that type of whatever.
Yeah, like Matt had some examples. So he had a Word document. It just had photo examples of like 1 through 10 of condition for an asphalt road and for like I think a brick or a concrete road. And so that helps you guide you. So if you're out looking at a street and I'm looking at a street, we hopefully are using the same objective metric in measuring it. But then he also had an example form like you could take out with you and look at a street and fill in, where does it start, where does it end, how wide is it, what's the condition, you put any notes. And so my hope would be I'll just put it all street by street in a table, and then we can just sort it and we can add to it too if we choose to add in sidewalks at some point or curbs. I think right now we're going to try to keep it simple, just to get it going and off the ground. But I'm open to any feedback or suggestions.
I think that's a very good idea.
So
you're going to start with just the main roads first? Streets, not alleyways. Because a lot of alleyways probably need done, but...
Yeah, my goal is, and I don't have a timeline, because I'm just kind of...
I understand.
Doing it, but I want to get every street in there, and I'm going to just do it piece by piece probably.
Okay.
Probably start with the main roads, but
that's what I'm saying, the main travel roads first, and then the...
Break it down block by block and stuff too.
Okay.
And like with the rankings...
If you're doing the same ranking, it'd be good if several people help you, if not just yourself.
Yeah, I'm open to...
If you do it, everyone's going to see the same pictures and be able to rank it.
If
you could get
Mike or Ray or anyone else on... I'm forgetting who else is on the Public Works, Nancy and Ray. If you guys want to help, by all means. But the idea is that a road that's got the most volume is going to have a heavier weight than, an alley. But if an alley is in terrible condition or the lowest condition, then that's going to also bring them up. So hopefully it, evens out.
If you send an example, we can put some input there with that together. Yeah, sure.
Did you have anything else, Jerry? I know you were on the emails.
No, we worked on this last year, and we talked about the same thing, about trying to do every street, coming up with a grading scale with, the different categories and trying to do that. So, I think it's a good idea.
Yep. Okay. Thanks.
Get AJ to help with that too.
Yeah, I was hoping that
It helps with decision time, because the problem that we have, and it's the reason why a lot of times it gets delayed, is that, Matt will come up with 3 options, and then trying to get everybody on board to make a decision on what are we gonna do is sometimes challenging. If we have a a 3 to 5 year plan that as long as there's a road that doesn't completely fall apart between now and then, this is what we're gonna do, it makes things a lot easier.
That's true.
Yeah, I think once I get the initial pass for the first year, I think subsequent years, going back and updating the rankings, it'll just be, I mean, literally just drive the borough, probably do it in under an hour, and you're just updating the rankings, seeing if it changed from the year before, and so that'll be easier, in future years.
Once you have everything recorded.
Yeah.
It's wonderful, thank you.
Yep.
Very good.
That's all I have.
Thanks, Dave.
Yep, thank you.
Dr. Carpenter.
Okay, we had a ordinance committee meeting yesterday with Jerry and the solicitor and the code enforcement officer. Several things came up from that meeting. First, I just want to remind everyone that at our next meeting in 2 weeks, there will be a demo hearing for 899 4th Street. It's at 6:30. It's been advertised and all of that's going on, so that's going to be happening in 2 weeks. And just to review, a couple of sheriff sales are coming up. 314 Arch, which is a marina pub. There's rumors about it being purchased, and I really don't know whether that's happening or not. If it does not happen, then there will be a sheriff's sale this coming Monday on the 2nd of March. Also, 500 Jones Street is scheduled, I do believe, for the 6th of April. That's Rivertown. And there are some things that might happen between now and the 6th of April that would stop the sheriff's sale, but we have no idea if those things are going to happen. We voted for a couple sheriff's sales last meeting at 638 2nd Street and 704 Athletic. 704 Athletic was sold, but I think that we are still on track for the sheriff's sale for 638 2nd Street. And,
That's 704 Athletic, is that the one in the rear?
Yeah.
yes.
That's sold.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
did it in full and then sold it.
Yeah, that's my understanding.
Yeah,
And so, as a result of our meeting, another property has come to our attention that needs to be sold. The owner is deceased for several years. There's many back taxes, and we are trying to get these properties back on the tax rolls. So I'm going to ask for a motion tonight for 812 First Street, that we approve a sheriff's sale for that property.
Can I speak? I'm sorry. My plan, and I texted Craig today, he didn't respond. I would like to purchase that property, but I can't purchase it until I'm done with the Rock property, because that property qualifies for the Allegheny County Vacant Property Recovery Program. And I've got application for it already, but when I read all the stipulations, I couldn't move forward with it right now.
For the Roth, or for
Yeah.
First Street?
Well, no, for First Street, because that's my next priority. I already bought Roth. Well, Roth I won't own until next Friday, but a stipulation with the program is you cannot own a property in Allegheny County with zoning or code violations. So I couldn't purchase 812 First Street right now. But in the fall, once I fix up the Roth house, that's my plan, is to purchase it. So I don't know if you're able to hold off on that. I mean, I'm just putting it out, that's,
I can rescind my motion for right now.
I mean, as soon as I get an occupancy permit for the Roth house, I can move forward. But I can't do it until I get in there and fix it up, and it's in really rough shape, so that's probably gonna take me several months.
You're still gonna have to buy it from a sheriff's sale,
Yeah, that's what I
correct?
was thinking, if it's still sheriff's sale, you can still buy it, right?
I don't know anything about sheriff's sales. I know about the Allegheny County Vacant Property Recovery Program, but I don't know about sheriff's sales. I don't know how that works. Right now, no, I can't buy it. My money's gonna be tied up in the Roth house, so I don't have the money to purchase it now. But I will once the house is done. So I don't know if you would be willing to wait on that one property in particular?
I'm not really sure when, I don't have the figures on how much of the taxes are not, what the taxes are. Do you know, Jerry? No. Well, I'm willing to rescind my motion for now. Maybe we can talk about it at our next meeting and figure it out.
Okay, I appreciate it.
Is that the proper procedure, that I rescind my
You
motion?
rescind your motion, and there's no
Yeah.
motion on the floor.
Okay. To go on further, we are delving more and more into the short-term rental ordinance that otherwise known as Airbnb, but it's really short-term rentals is what we're looking at. We're also working on an amendment for the garbage ordinance, just so that when we see a bunch of garbage cans sitting out in the front of people's houses or wherever that aren't being picked up the day of collection by that end of that night. I don't know about you guys, but on my street, there's garbage cans out all week long. And if we...
Sometimes they're still filled up though.
No, most of them are empty. They're empty. But then the wind blows and then the garbage cans and the totes are flying all down the street and they could become dangerous. So for some reason in 2014, when the recycling came in, that part of the ordinance got dropped inadvertently. So we're just looking to add that back in. So then if they're laying around 3 days later, someone can get cited with an ordinance to back it up. And we're also working on specific fees for temporary dumpsters, like on the boulevard and things like that. So people bring them in, use them, get them out. So they're not there for a month. And in terms of chairs in the street, I think that we have decided that we don't really need an ordinance for that because it's already covered under litter. So putting a cone or chair or anything in the street is considered litter. And I think we discussed Sylvia taking some pictures and putting an article in the newsletter just to let people know that they can't put chairs and stuff in the street to save their spot.
What if we're sitting
You
there?
won't
Is it
believe
litter
this.
then?
Nobody's put any, no chair or no cone.
Well, I know, there's been no snow, but this is, I don't know.
Like the south side.
Yeah.
It's a Pittsburgh tradition.
There's one
I don't know.
street in town that has a problem
Yeah.
with chairs though.
Really?
Yeah.
So there are streets, regardless of snow or no snow.
Right.
That have problems where people are trying to claim their spot, and I guess technically they're not supposed to do
And I've
that.
had the officers go up there and tell them, to take them in.
On-street
or
parking
else
is,
they'll get-
it's on-street, it's...
But you can't put a chair out
Right.
to save the spot.
No, I'm saying it's open to anybody.
Right,
That's right.
Courtesy to let...
But they can cite them based on the litter.
right.
So that's been resolved, but we were thinking we'd put an article in the newsletter that just says, don't do it. Picture of a chair in the street with a circle and a red line or something. I don't know.
Hey, so we'll take a picture of you sitting in this chair.
Thanks, Ray. Okay, I think that's it for me. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Forback.
I have nothing to report this time.
Okay, Mr. Suchovich.
I just have two minor things. Speaking of the boulevard, there's a few potholes up near where Wildwood comes down, a couple right at that intersection, and a couple at Center. Maybe we can have AJ look at them.
On the boulevard?
On the boulevard, yeah. And the only other thing I have is a couple questions come up about the budget, or not the budget, bills payable. So the budget committee's gonna meet next week, or in a couple weeks and go over that sort of things. Other than that, that's all I have.
Janet.
Okay. First one I had was the splash pad that Mayor had been talking about having. I just have a few concerns and questions about it, so I'm gonna look into it further before I go on further with that. I have Railroad Park parking, it was discussed. The pickleball group, they would like parking down on Railroad, street sweeping days. They can't park on the one side. They were asking if between the hours of 11 and 12:30, if they could park on the park side, talking with the chief, our concern is if we don't want them parking right in front of the playground. So we were thinking maybe as a temporary basis, if we could try it, is like from the tennis or the basketball court to the edge of the pickleball court, and just, they would have parked there temporarily. It's the only street in Verona that's one way where you can't park on one side of the street, but rather than, some of them are, I guess, older that don't want to walk too far, want to play pickleball during that time period, they could park there for an hour and a half.
They can play
Then
pickleball, but they
move
can't
back
walk.
over once-
They're right there and they can go move the car when they see.
Right. So it was a discussion.
Riverbank, right?
Yeah, this is down at
Okay,
Riverbank.
it's a railroad. I was confused.
I'm sorry, that should be Riverbank. So, if that's agreeable, we could try it even as a temporary basis and see how it works.
I talked with the chief as well, and he had no problems with it. Does
I think if
anybody
you have
else?
people down there using the park, I mean, they're doing nice, having fun, not bothering anybody.
It's only for an hour and a half.
Yeah.
Anybody else have any objections?
Nope.
So I don't know if we'll have to have maybe a sign made for that. It's
Yeah,
just
we'll get the
yeah,
signs made.
Jerry?
Do we
take
need a
care.
motion for that?
I don't believe we need a motion to put the temporary parking on that side, because there is parking on the one side, so. Okay, take care of that.
And then the Parks and Rec Board, they are planning a Verona Celebrate Earth Day in all the parks. The date they would like to do this event is on May 5th.
No,
That
May
would include-
2nd.
I'm sorry, May 2nd, thank you, at Cribs, Railroad Park, and Riverbank Park. So there'll be different activities going on simultaneously throughout the day at all three parks. And they're asking for the event to start at noon and ending at 4. So it's they want to do a fun day, to do different activities, get, the community involved, come and play at the park. Hopefully it's a great weather day.
In all 3 parks at one time?
Yep, all 3 parks. So that would be May 2nd at Cribs,
Yeah, from noon to 4.
from noon to 4. As far as I know, nobody has requested any of the parks for that day. They fill out a permit. And
Do we need to approve that permit?
No, we approved that at the office. I don't think we
Right
need,
at the office.
council doesn't.
Council just is informed on it,
I just
and that's
wanna let
approved by
you know,
Jerry.
too.
Okay.
The event that is in the planning. Last meeting too, I talked a little bit about RAA requesting $500 toward a new batting cage. They'll take down the fencing, which the borough will take care of. They'll need the poles. The poles won't come down. But the type of fencing they're going to be putting up is a netting. So the cost that they had estimated is at $1,500, and they put a request in that if the borough could donate $500 toward the cost of the netting. So I'd like to make a motion that the borough donate $500 towards the cost of netting the new batting cage up at Cribs Field.
Motion on the floor for $500, second by Mr. Suchovich. Are there any questions?
Yeah, sorry, they want, the $500 would be for the netting,
Towards their netting. the
but they
cost of
still
it.
need, what are they doing with the poles? They still need to,
The poles will stay. They'll use the
Okay.
poles. It's just the
it's just
fencing
the fencing
that's up
gonna be
there now
removed.
that'll be removed.
It's gonna be replaced with the netting?
Yes.
Okay.
yes. For like safety,
Yeah.
the fencings will be all solid.
Yeah, it's
and
in bad shape.
Yes.
So will this become out of the rec board budget?
It'll come out of the rec, it'll probably come up out of the park and rec
Yeah, that's fine.
fund, yeah.
All right, that's fine.
Are there any other questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Are there any noes? Motion passed.
And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Provenza.
Yes, sir, thank you. Newsletter ads and articles, without a question, due Monday, March 2nd. That is the last day that we can turn anything in, and then we go to print. Number 2, community dinner is tomorrow evening from 4 to 6 and that's at our Methodist Church here on Center Avenue, and it will be hosted by Presbyterian Senior Care. This Thursday, the 27th, Rhea and Josh are still trying to get their basement back. They have approximately 600 pounds of plastic film that still has to be sorted and packed. And we need people to give them a hand to help them so we can get this done and they can have their basement back. And the end result of that will be that Trex will donate the bench to our borough, which is wonderful. And that is a big, big help. And the time on that is, Rhea, was that 7 o'clock?
6:30 to 8.
Okay, 6:30 to 8 p.m. And last day to drop your plastic film off at different locations is on March the 10th. And that is the very last day. And after that, the boxes will be gone and we'll be done with it. But I have to thank you, Ray and Josh. You've taken on a major job and you certainly are completing it with flying colors. Thank you very, very much. That is not an easy job.
Thank
You
you.
have given not only of yourselves, but of your home. Very commendable. Thank you again.
You're welcome.
Okay.
I'll admit I didn't know exactly what we were getting into.
It's a lot of fun.
Ain't happening again.
I'll teach you.
Thank you.
I don't blame you.
I've seen a picture of that.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
It's a
I
lot.
didn't see
I
that.
can't even envision that many pounds. It's
I didn't
just
see
hard
any
to believe.
pictures, no.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. They got a nice
Floor to
camera
ceiling,
down there.
Literally 10 by 20 feet. It was ridiculous.
Just incredible. My hat's off to both of you. You have earned that bench.
Here, pass this along. That's their base.
The next item coming up, we definitely will have the garden tour, and that is scheduled for Saturday, June 20th, and the time is from 10 until 2. We have approximately 14 participants, and we're still open
Thank
for
God you
more.
have a
So-
heated floor.
So if anybody is interested, there's definitely openings. Please do sign up. And on Thursday, March the 19th, Gary Rogers from the Oakmont Historical Society will be here for our Historical Society meeting, and he's going to present the St. Patrick's Day flood of 1936. So you may want to mark your calendars. That's going to be really something very interesting to hear. And going down just a little further down the road, another thing to mark on your calendar will be the spring cleanup, which will be Saturday, April 25th. And that's going to go from 9 until noon. And help is always needed. And a special thanks go out to Kathy and Luke. They're very good about putting this together. So I say thank you very much to them. And that is my report.
Thank you very much.
Yes, sir. You're welcome.
Any reports on Allegheny League of Municipalities?
No, wait.
Sylvia's able.
Yeah.
Sylvia Zalo.
Yes. As a delegate, I will be representing Verona on, I believe it's March the 6th. I will be downtown.
Okay.
And hopefully we will be selected as a banner community again.
Okay. Council of Government.
Yeah, sorry, I was confused.
That's all right.
There's a meeting tomorrow night, monthly meeting, so I'll be attending that, and I'll report back anything for the March meeting.
Tax Collectors Committee, nothing. Okay. Make a motion, we need a motion to adjourn to an exec session. that we don't
Comments from the public?
No, we had comments.
No, we have it at the end also.
Oh, are there any, yeah. Any other comments from the public at this time? Please approach the podium. Clearly state your name and address and limit your time to 3 minutes.
Motion to adjourn. To exec.
We need a motion.
Motion to adjourn to exec session.
We
I'll
do
make
not
a motion.
return. First First by Mr. Persetovich, second by Mr. Provenza. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any noes? No, motion passed.
I like hearing you call me Mr. Sedgwick. That's what we said Saturday.